We all go through different chapters in our lives, some stranger than others. Welcome to Strange Chapters, where we bring you true stories of the strange, the macabre, the paranormal, and the supernatural. So sit back, relax, and let's get to this week's featured author and their stories. Hey everybody, welcome back to Strange Chapters. Today we have 3 stories from G.D. Pickering's Mysterious Creatures, Cryptid Encounters Volume 5. You can find all of G.D. Pickering's books on Amazon and Kindle and the other volumes in this series of Mysterious Creatures. And you can connect with him at Mysterious Creatures on Facebook and other social medias. So let's get strange. Story 1, Randy's Encounter. Okay, so I'm not really sure how to tell this story, as it's still ongoing and has been happening for more than 20 years. Back in 1998, I was home in Texas on my ranch, which is miles from any town or neighbor. There was a knock at the door, and when I opened it, there were 2 small children, stood there with really pale skin and completely black eyes. It was odd because as soon as I saw them, I felt a fear come over me, and nothing ever scares me. They kept asking to come in, but I knew something wasn't right about them. I offered to call for help for them, but they just got more and more angry, demanding that I let them in. My son was behind me, and he heard everything, and came over and slammed the door shut. He said they are black-eyed children and very dangerous, and that you should never let them in your house or car. 2 years later, I was leaving a store. I got in my truck and closed the door, and before I could start the engine, there was a knock on the window. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was the same 2 children from the ranch 2 years previous. They hadn't aged a day and were dressed the same. Just like at the ranch, they were asking me to let them in, and when I refused, they got angry again, demanding I let them in. I started the truck and drove away as quick as I could. A year later, they turned up at the ranch again, the same 2 children, only this time there was another child with them, maybe a couple of years older. As usual, they started off nice, asking to come in, then again got angry when I refused, so I told them to leave and close the door. These encounters continue every year or two to this day. They have been to my ranch probably a dozen times, and my car 3 times, even standing in front of my car at a stoplight. I have heard different theories about what they are. Some say they're vampires, some say demons, and some say alien hybrids. Personally, I think they're aliens of some sort. I have no idea what they want from me, but they haven't harmed me yet, although I'm guessing that would change if I let them in. The thing that freaks me out the most is that it's always the same children. I've been seeing them for 25 years, and they haven't aged a day. If you ever see black-eyed children, don't let them in. Story 2, Teddy's Encounter. I live on a small farm in Michigan. I'm in my 40s now, but I've lived here my entire life. I was born on this farm. Growing up, I noticed that animals would go missing quite regularly, but my dad never seemed to mention it. I brought it up with him once when I was about 14, and he said it's better they take the odd animal rather than one of us. I had no idea what he was talking about, so I started staying up late at night trying to see what was taking our animals. I heard a noise late one night, and being a stupid teenager, I decided to go outside to see what it was. Ended up in a face-off with 3 big gray wolves. I thought I was as good as dead, but then there was this growl coming from the side of us, a real deep growl. I looked over, and there was a 7-foot Dogman standing there on its back legs. The wolves didn't want any of him and ran off, leaving me face to face with the Dogman. At this point, I was wishing to go back to being in a face-off with the wolves. He just looked at me, snorted a little, and turned and walked off. I noticed he had a chicken in his hand. I went back inside in a complete panic. My dad had heard me and come to see what was going on, so I told him what had happened. He said the Dogman had saved me from the wolves. It didn't mean me any harm. He told me he had run into it many times on the farm and had never shown any aggression towards him. Well, 20-odd years later, my dad is gone now, and I'm still here with my wife and sons, and over the years I've had many encounters with 3 different Dogmen on my farm, and none of them have been aggressive towards me. I owe my life to that Dogman. Story 3, Steven's Encounter. My name is Steven. I'm 46, and I have a story for you. I live in Georgia with my wife and kids. Next door lives my cousin Robert. Robert has a cabin in the woods where he goes most weekends. I used to go with him until we had the kids. I noticed that he hadn't been to his cabin for 4 or 5 weeks, which is very odd, so I asked him what was going on in the cabin. After a few minutes of hesitation, he told me that last time he was there, his cabin was attacked by a group of Bigfoot while he was inside. He was terrified that they would get in and attack him, but thankfully they left as quick as they had appeared. I told him I would go to the cabin with him that weekend. I told him they had probably moved on by now. So that weekend we got to the cabin, and they had been back, and this time they did get inside. They had turned the place upside down. Everything was wrecked, and there was real bad smell in the place. We spent 3 or 4 hours cleaning the place up. Then we sat out front and had a couple of beers. While we were drinking, the woods fell dead. All the noise of the animals just stopped. There was a predator in the area. I knew that straight away. I got my rifle from the truck, and as I was scanning the trees, I saw 3 huge Bigfoot, at least 9 foot tall, staring at us, and they didn't look happy. I told Robert to get in the truck now, and we got out of there. It was 6 months before we went back again, but this time we didn't see them, and he hasn't had any visits from them since. I'm a big, strong, tough guy, but looking eye to eye at those things made me feel like a child. If they had come at us, there would have been nothing we could do to stop them. I've never felt so helpless in my life as I did in that moment. All right, everybody. That is it for these 3 stories for this episode. Go check out G.D. Pickering's Mysterious Creatures, Cryptid Encounters Volume 5 for the rest of the stories in this series. And check out G.D. Pickering's other books on Amazon and Kindle. Thank you for listening today. We'll see you next time. Stay strange.